I'll tell you what for me is one of the worst things about doing residential real estate, and that is seeing people make dumb or costly mistakes and never even know that they're happening. It happens every single day. So today, I'm going to talk about the dumb and costly things I see when people are interested in a house and what they should do instead so that you don't make dumb and costly mistakes. My name is Michael Hausam. I'm a broker in Southern California, and I've been licensed for over 25 years. And then I was in the mortgage industry starting over a decade before that. But what I'm doing here with Fix My Realtor is totally different and unique. It has nothing to do with earning sales commissions or representing buyers or sellers as their agent. It is about giving people across the country independent guidance and help, whether or not they've hired a realtor. To be clear and honest, when the people that I see doing dumb and costly things are the sellers of a house that my clients want, then it doesn't bother me as much, frankly. And the same is true when it's people doing dumb or costly things who are trying to buy one of my listings. I'm okay with that too, because in those cases, my clients are benefiting from other folks who are doing things without knowing that they're just shooting themselves in the foot. But in almost all of these cases, what this actually means is that the realtors that they hired, they don't have any idea what they're doing. And Fix My Realtor's mission is to put a stop to that. So buyers or sellers control their own real estate journey and know exactly what it takes to buy or sell a home like a pro, regardless of the realtor they hire. So let me give you a real life example and you'll see what I'm talking about. On a listing of mine last year, I meet this sweet, super sweet young couple. They're hoping to buy their first house. Turns out that the wife's mom has her license and she was going to be helping them. But the mom called me right afterwards and started asking me questions about the marketplace, about various strategies to help them buy a house, and a bunch of other things like this. It was a mini coaching session that she was asking for. And she called me several times over the next month or so, including once after they didn't get a house that they were trying to get. And it was astonishing to me. So I looked her up, and her history showed some sales, but she's had no sales in the last decade. So here's what was happening. These sweet people hired someone to help them that they totally trusted, their mom, but what they didn't know is that the mom had no idea what she was doing. None whatsoever. They're out there making dumb and costly mistakes while having no idea that it was going on. So this is what I'm talking about when I say that the worst thing for me in residential real estate is watching stuff like this happen over and over and over, because it doesn't have to happen. So this is why Fix My Realtor exists. So even if these sweet people continued working with their mom, because they kind of had to, it was their mom, right? They would be able to make sure to stop the dumb or the costly things that she was going to do. So the direct inspiration for this topic today, it was a text message that I got from an agent just the other day. Today's Friday. This was on Monday or Tuesday about a brand new listing of mine, okay? The text I got said, it was something like, "Hi, Michael. This is," then the guy's name with X Real Estate. "How much room is there in price on your listing?" Out of the blue. That was the text that I got, okay? There was no call. There was no context. No nothing. So I looked this guy up. He had a couple hundred sales. Lots of business right up into current time, right? But this was a totally dumb and costly move. And frankly, he shot his clients right in the foot while doing it. So this guy has no idea, and they certainly have no idea, that what he did was totally the wrong way to go about this. And this is not the first such message I've received over the years. Maybe it was like the 100th or the 200th, just an inquiry out of the blue. "Hey, how much room is there on price?" Now, to be fair, maybe this guy's clients weren't that serious about the house, or he was just being flippant or something. I don't know. But let's just presume for a second that they were serious about this house. Let's talk about what was wrong about what he did and what should have been done instead. I'm doing this so that if you are a buyer or a seller, you can recognize a pro-level operator versus an amateur or a mediocre level operator yourself. So you don't have to rely on a realtor who may or may not have any idea of the right way to go about this. So the first thing that he did wrong is he made absolutely no effort to set up or stage the entire interaction with me. Let me quickly explain this to you. In the system that I use for my own clients here in Orange County, and then with Fix My Realtor across the country to coach home buyers on how to buy a house like a pro, I use a recipe that has 6 different ingredients. And this recipe needs to be followed exactly. And all the recipe ingredients need to be used just like with any other recipe. And one of the critical buyer recipe ingredients is called buyer staging. It's something I go on about much deeper on a different video here on YouTube. And then of course, much deeper than that within the Fix My Realtor Buyer's Advantage program. Anyway, the overview is that it is the same concept as home staging, but it kind of flips it on its head to benefit the home buyer, to make them more compelling and more attractive to a seller than an unstaged buyer. Now, a part of this recipe ingredient includes some responsibilities and actions from the buyer's agent in advance of potentially writing an offer. That's the framework for that piece of the buyer staging. These are planned strategic moves taken by the buyer's agent to set the stage. Remember, the main responsibility of a listing agent, beyond getting an offer, is to actually make sure that a transaction closes with the minimum amount of drama and hassle. So a smart listing agent evaluates more than just the offer. They evaluate all the parties involved and all the various different moving parts. So the aspect of buyer staging that the agent has to do is taking proactive and strategic steps to make sure that that listing agent knows who they are and is confident in their experience. And the reason for this, I cannot tell you the number of times that I've had listing agents call me in the midst of a competitive multiple offer situation, and they've told me that my buyers are getting the house because they sensed that the other agent on the other side was either inexperienced or going to be a nightmare or something like that. So this is what that agent should have done to properly set the stage. Instead of just a random, how flexible is your price text, he should have called me, introduced himself, told me that he's going to be showing the house, and then asked me if there's anything further that he needed to know before walking his clients through. It would have taken like 90 seconds, right? And then he should have called me or texted me after the showing. Hey, thanks so much. Had any other questions or whatever. This kind of thing rarely happens. But when it does happen, it always makes a great impression. I had no idea who this guy is, but those easy, super quick steps, it's like, you know what? This guy's a pro and he knows how to handle his business. That would have been the response. And then at that point, if the clients would have wanted to pursue the house further, he would have been staged properly. But he didn't do that. So that was a missed opportunity for him and for his clients. And then the next thing he did was even worse. He's inquiring about the price of the house absent any context or any setup. That is a total amateur move. Now, of course, I get his interest in talking about the price of the house, right? That's his job as a buyer's agent. But out of the blue, oh, by the way, would you guys be willing to take less? At best, that's going to get him, I don't know, maybe. At best, it's stupid, right? You only want a seller to think about reconsidering their pricing on a home when everything is positioned and laid out just right. That you've started to chop away about whatever certainty they have about their asking price. Let me tell you a story that perfectly illustrates this, okay? It's kind of funny too. So years ago, my son, Jack, was selling his motorcycle, and he was getting all of these phone calls, people asking him, hey, is the bike still available for sale? Are you flexible on price? Right out of the gut. So I coached him to totally ignore that question and just say, yeah, the bike's available. Why don't you come and see it? If somebody was serious, they would show up. And then, as you could guess, very few actually did show up. But there was one guy that did show up. And Jack's all excited. He's running down the stairs to meet them. And he yells out to me. He goes, hey, Pops, they're going to pay me full price, $2,500. If they can't pay me the full price, they can turn around and go home. So Jax runs out the door, totally certain, $2,500 or you're out of here. It's like 2 minutes later. He comes running up the stairs to me. He's got this big shit-eating grin on his face, happy as a clam, and he shoves a wad of bills in my hand. So I'm counting them out. 1, 2, 3, 19, 20. Jack, there's only 20 here. You're $500 short. Where's the rest? Papa, that's it. What do you mean that's it? You said full 2,500 or they're going home empty-handed. Well, I don't know. That's kind of what I was thinking. But the guy reached in his pocket, he counted out 20 hundies, and then he handed them to me. And I just kind of like reached out and grabbed them, and I couldn't say no. Well, do you see what I'm getting at here? This guy positioned it such that Jack's certainty was softened and he got 20% off the price of the motorcycle. The time for that guy to inquire about the price of the home the other day wasn't via a text message. It was in a meeting with a super compelling offer all written up, ready to sign. He needed to do the real estate equivalent of showing up and waving $2,100 bills in our face before ever getting to talking about price. And note, the guy that bought my kid's motorcycle, he didn't even ask about price. He didn't ask about flexibility or anything like that. He just pulled out the wad, theatrically counted out $2,100 bills, showed it to Jack, and said, how about this? That's how you go about setting up a circumstance to get a better price on the home, by making sure that your agent is operating at a pro level. And if you're not using an agent, then you need to operate at a pro level. You should take the responsibility to do these things yourself. Either way, that's the important point. So now let me quickly go over a couple of other things that you as a potential buyer should do in order to elevate your offer to increase the likelihood of getting a better price, or if there's a multiple competitive situation, to be preferred by the seller without just having to throw more money at them. These are additional ingredients in my home buying recipe to help you buy a house like a pro. So one key ingredient that I use is, it's also very rare. I call it practicing the contract. Most people never see the purchase contract on a home until they actually decide to write an offer, and then it shows up on their phone in DocuSign. That's the very first time they see the offer paperwork. So they have no idea what's in it, nor what the various moving parts are, so they don't know how and what can be done to make it more appealing to a seller. They end up trusting whatever it is their agent has to say about it, but oftentimes they miss opportunities or make costly mistakes. And this is just needlessly expensive. It doesn't have to happen that way. Well, before you ever think about writing an offer on a home, get a copy of the purchase contract that's used in your area so you can understand it. What are the various contingencies that are buried in it and how do they work? What is the timeline and the options for cancellations should that be necessary? When would a cancellation result in getting back all of your deposit versus when does your deposit actually come at risk? How exactly do the loan and the appraisal and the inspection contingencies work? What are their time frames and how can those be adjusted? The idea is that you want to have a good general understanding of all the different various components before you actually get in a pressure-filled situation over a house that you might want. Now, it's not like you need to become a contract expert or go to law school in the evening to learn how to do this. You just need to have a basic idea of how the contract works and where in it you can find those specific details. And then also, you want to understand what the standard practices are in your area. If you understand what most buyers are going to be doing, you will then understand the likely expectations of a listing agent or a seller. And then you can determine what things you want to do differently. Doing things differently than what the seller or their agent is likely to expect can make an enormous difference. And an enormous difference can be tens of thousands of dollars or more. Now, within this, there are actually 2 additional recipe ingredients that are buried in there that I love, and let me quickly tell you about those. So every contract I've ever seen has a loan contingency period included in it. It gives the buyer a certain number of days to get a loan after the contract is signed. If they can't get a loan approval, that's then an off-ramp for them to be able to cancel the contract with no penalty. Now, personally, I think a loan contingency is totally bonkers. There's not a single other marketplace on earth where you can agree to buy something from someone and then have a certain period of time to determine if you can actually afford to buy it. If I was selling something on Facebook Marketplace, for example, and the person showed up to negotiate out a deal on it, and then he asked for another week or 2 to come up with the money, my head would explode. Go get the money and then come back to me about buying it. Or if with Jack, that guy showed up and said, yeah, I'll give you the $2,500. Would you give me a week and a half to go find the money? Jack would be like, go get the money and call me, right? If you've done your homework up front and you've obtained a fully underwritten conditional loan approval, you shouldn't need a loan contingency at all. That right there is an instant way to reduce a seller's concern about you and that you can become more attractive. Notice here in the contract, I've waived the loan contingency period. We did that because my loan is already approved. I actually don't need it. So that's one quick thing to do. Another one of my favorites has to do with the earnest money deposit itself. This is another area where you can make a big distinction between yourself and any competitors and go way beyond the standard expectation of a seller or their agent. For example, right here in Orange County, the standard earnest money deposit is usually between 2 to 3% of the price of the home. Okay? 99.9% of all offers are written up that way. My recipe ingredient here is to have your earnest money deposit equal your down payment. So if you're doing a 20% down payment with an 80% loan, make your deposit the same 20%. Imagine you're a seller and you're looking at 2 offers on an $800,000 house. You got 2 offers in front of you. One of them's got a deposit of 3%, 24 grand, the standard, and the other one has a deposit of 20%, 160 grand. What's that? $136,000, $146,000 more? Which one of the 2 gets your attention? Which one demonstrates more commitment to the deal? If you've done your contract practicing and you understand the timelines and the requirements for deposits and cancellations, this is a risk-free way to make you the far more attractive buyer. And the bigger your down payment, the more impressive will be the result. I've had numerous clients over the years use this tactic that have gotten houses in multiple offer situations while not being the highest offer. Most recently, a particular one I remember, Chris and Rachel, they're putting down 25% and they were competing against an all-cash buyer. Now, of course, they waived their loan contingency because we did our homework. And we're going to put 25%, that entire 25% in escrow immediately upon the contract being signed, per my advice. Their offer was 20 grand less than the all cash buyer. But the all cash buyer was doing a 2% deposit. So that's an enormous difference, right? What we found out was later that the seller, they had had an issue on a previous home sale years ago with the deposit and all that. I don't even know what happened, but it was something about a deposit. And this particular item ended up being a very important issue to them. The fact that my guys were putting in 25% of the price as their deposit, 12 and a half times more money than the all cash guys, it was so compelling to the seller that they signed our offer as written. It was great. And I am sure that the agent for the all cash buyer was shocked when they saw eventually the sales price that it closed at, looking at it going, wait a second, my all cash guys offered more. Why didn't we get the house? I just love to think of that thing happening in my mind, right? Now, the platinum level move, of course, is for an all cash buyer to do this. If your offer promises to put 100% of the funds into escrow within 2 or 3 days, that is going to blow the seller's mind. That is the way you get a seller to consider taking far less for the house. That's literally pulling out your wad and just counting, just like with my kid and his motorcycle, right? So these are the two different things to do to set up your offer to buy a house. The first one is to do advanced staging work specifically for your agent. The second one is about understanding the moving parts of the contract itself and how to adjust those moving parts to be more attractive to a seller and to separate yourself from standard expectations or any competition that you might have. Now, these are just quick tastes of the overall program that I run. There's certainly more to buyer staging and even into the contract. If you would like more information on those, or if you would like more of my help, there are two possible next steps for you. Both of them are at the website, fixmyrealtor.com. The first one, it's the Buyers and Sellers Advantage program. It's a comprehensive program where I am literally walking through your entire home buying journey with you. It also includes a reference library with all of the whats and the whens and the hows for my entire system. The second option is to attend my free workshop. I have them every single week where I go into even more detail about the recipe ingredients for buying or selling a house like a pro and controlling your own real estate journey. Both of these things here can easily be found at fixmyrealtor.com. Now, if you're watching here on YouTube, the next video up is about a tool that I've got on my website called the Real Estate Readiness Assessment. It's a third option. In just a few quick minutes, you can find out if you're really ready to buy or sell a house right now. Take a look at that video.